Oh, yeah, the time may be fluid each week, but hey, we get together to spill those fluids. Yeah, it's the BCX. Put it up, Brian Campbell, back in your absolute face hole. Another edition of Campbell's Rambles here on Wednesday, August 27th of the 25s. I don't know about the weather out your window, but it is sunny and cool here in the Northeast. So it's cool to be with you on this day when this middle-aged man in his basement rambles in circles about awkward topics ranging from 90s NBA, 70s vinyl, mixed martial arts, mental health, boxing, whatever you got. All right, whatever you got. Fired up to be here. Cosmo Kramer is here. Oh, yeah, indeed. And Nocita of the main card minute. Yeah, we're going to talk a little Tull today. All right, I'm a changed man. I'm a changed man. Let's get into it. All right. Fired up to be here with all of you. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time. All right. Cream, where's the money? Ham Sammy, dollar bill, y'all. Dave Sandine is here from as high as 9,000 feet today. Will he vape in the bathroom? Will he enter the Mile High Club? More on that as this chat develops for old JBR's finest there. Shout out to the Just Bleed radio crew. Shout out to everybody that is that's here. Okay. All the boys are here. Lazy Bed in the house. Where's his British counterpart there? The Danger Mouse. I don't know, but we're going to find out. Hey, Canada's here. Brody Moret. He just lit his cig. He's ready. Okay. Parliaments only. No filter for Moret. So get fired up. Good to be here. Great to be here. Did I say that 14 times yet? Let's go. Let's freaking go. Rafe Boogity. Yeah, no mental. That's the thing. Rafe don't want to talk about what's going on. Okay. No mental health talk. Stand tall like a man and bite down on that lower lip. Euclid, Ohio style there. So shout out to that misplaced Midwestern in a Manhattan upbringing there. One Rafa Bartolome. No Inside the Box, unfortunately, this week because I got too much content on the BCX of a plethora of interviews. And oh, by the way, the box is empty right now. All right. Combat Sports is kind of empty now. When Andrew Tate boxing on a Misfits card and the disgusting fallout of this Raja Jackson thing are the major stories in Combat Sports, like by far, it's a great time to go on vacation or get out or do something. But you chose to be here with me. So let's do it. All right, let's do it. Channel update, right? Channel update. You can right now catch what I think are maybe even fantastic interviews over there on the BCX channel. Oh, you're here right now with the likes of MMA's Paul Hughes from Ireland and PFL fame, who's got a lot to say about Usman Nurmagomedov heading into their fan-friggin-tastic October 3rd rematch. Am I the only one on the planet that's fired up about this? Is it me and Don with 4 N's or what? Let's go. Also, James Foley is back. The Folo Punch. My man from Chicago, one of my favorite boxing podcasters and weirdo friends of all time. I sat down with him earlier this week to chat Canelo-Crawford. We got inside of a different box together. It was fascinating. Check that out. And hey, who would have thought your boy BC rubbing elbows with the great Eric Roberts, legendary character actor, as we talked Best of the Best, that cult classic 89 martial arts film, the sequel, and so much more. Our boy Johnny Sig hooked that up. So shout out to Johnny Sig, who is going to be a part of their big event in Vegas in October, which anyone can buy a ticket for and head on over and meet the stars of the film. Talk about this 5th film that they're thinking about. I don't know. Get fired up. All right. Get fired up. Thank you, old man Dave. Okay. Like the content if you do. All right. I mean, apparently I'm not big on traffic on this channel, but if you know, you know, I guess. And a few of you do know. Herman Sarai is here. Yes, fella. Looking good there. Did you take that selfie in the car? One day closer to UFC Paris in about 10 days. Yeah. What do we got this weekend? It's like CGI and Tony Ferguson against Salt Bay. Yeah, okay, it's one of them weekends, all right. Lazy Bed knows a bit about where G-Bot came from over there in Euclid. So shout out to Ohio, right? Homer's from Ohio, Adrian Broner, right? Kelly Pavlik. It's great. It's great. All right. WKRP in Cincinnati. Thank you, Sandine. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the crap out of that. Eric Roberts was fantastic. So, Rafe Bugs knows about it. Bite down on the gum shield like a prime and Crolla, rock and rolla, bang it full of quarters and get on with it. Great soundbite history right there. Yeah, the box is dusty and crusty at the moment, but that's not stopping us. Ham Sandwich never has, never, ever will. Yeah, a lot of fans of the Boogster in these parts. Also, in addition to this Paul Hughes interview from Blood and Beer, thank you very much for saying that. Great interview. You're not the only one fired up. All right. This morning I chatted with Usman Nurmagomedov, and I got a rebuttal and a half, because don't forget, Paul Hughes believes. Okay, let's talk about this right now. Paul Hughes believes that Usman did not want the rematch so badly that it took PFL to say, look, you don't fight Paul Hughes a second time, we take that title from you. Now, Usman, I brought that shit up to him. You're going to have to check it out. I believe it's coming out tomorrow. Usman's a funny dude. I've always been a fan of the extended Nurmagomedov, Makhachev clan, the anyone who falls under the Abdulmanap tree. They are delightfully funny, along with their Dagestan wrestling greatness. So check that out. I'll also be catching up with Corey Anderson later this week on the channel. Callum Walsh interview coming out as well. He's got that co-main event bout on the Canelo-Crawford fight, which is coming up, fellas, ladies. Yeah, right. Like there's ladies in here. Fellas, it's coming up. All right. September 13th. Let's go. All right. Let's go. Yeah, watch that Foley interview, Dave. All right. Please. Brody, great interview with Foley. Yes, I was the one guy who enjoyed your Ellie Seckbeck joke. So I think Foley and I had some issues. He was using a bunk laptop, and there was a delay, and he couldn't hear me, but we still tried to fill in a few one-liners for you. I don't know what Foley's been up to. He's been like selling corn on the Midwest circuit. But I used to love his work with TBQR Radio and Patrick the Beard Connor and all that stuff. All that and then some. Tall, pale, and handsome. Yes, it is your boy BC back at it. We do put our hands in the glove of clitoris, so thank you very much, Hammy. There it is. Whoop. There it is. All right. We need. I know the people. I know. Okay, I'm sorry. I know. All right. I mean, look, if you keep saying it, maybe we'll do it. All right. I don't know. What are we going to talk about? The backside of Rafe's balls? I mean, I'm down with that. I've seen those. Yeah. Well, okay. There you go. Left. We'll stop with that. We will stop with that. All right. Zoe the cat is here. She'll probably make her presence felt. Zoe, let me make some room for you. All right. I got all these old dishes here. Yeah. There you go. All right. Brody Moret, even Chris Benoit thought Raja Jackson. Okay, that's aggressive there from Canada's finest cigarette smoker. Thank you as well. We're going to get into a lot of things. I'm already starring these good questions that I come seeing in. If you're new to this part, and you probably aren't because there's like 13 of us, but we love it here, right? I'm going to talk in circles about a few pre-planned topics. Then, of course, we will open up the floor to you folks to get your questions heard, get your long-winded answers answered, and maybe have a good time and put on a smile in between. Chinchilla, tough fight for Walsh. I agree with you. There's a lot of people like, he's gonna piss all over Fernando Vargas Jr. I'm like, this is a test for both those gentlemen in the co-main event, and whether you like that fight or not, UFC, Dana White, TKO, Zuffa, they're giving Callum Walsh an opportunity here to shine, to be a big deal. So he's got to step up. He's got to handle that. Yeah, Blood and Beer, ready for that interview. PFL is kind of on fire for their standards. Their standards and practices. They got some fire fights lately. I'll give them that. I don't always agree with the direction or the setup or much that Don does, but that man can can certainly raise money there, Don Davis. Oh, former President Zachary Taylor in the house. Bad timing, BC. Guess everyone at Home Depot is going to listen to this as well. Add at least 20 viewers to the count. There we go. There we go. Hopefully ICE is not there picking up construction workers. Not a funny joke, but, it's a reality right now, unfortunately, okay? Ham sandwich, Ellie Sackback is whack. I know people don't always love Ellie, but I'll always hedge this and say Ellie has always been a gentleman to me, a nice guy, gives advice. I see him everywhere. We have nice conversations. You don't have to love his content or his opinions, but I try to be nice who's nice to me, and I'm a big Ellie guy. Okay. All right. Let's do it here. Zoe, you want to say hi? Let's see how long this lasts before she assaults me. Zoe goes through these stretches where she moves into my office for like a week at a time, and it's she's violent. She'll get a running start and bite any exposed skin at all times. That's sort of the way and then like she doesn't do that to anybody else. So everybody thinks I'm making it up in this house. She's just, it's like basic instinct over here. It's like okay, all right, here we go. What do you got, Blood and Beer? Vargas and Walsh are both a little untested. True. Agreed. That's why it's perfect. Let's find out. Let's put both O's on the line. The winner's going to make an O face. It's going to be great. No buttholes though, Zoe, please. We're trying to keep that away. All right. We're trying to keep that out of there. All right. Yeah. Yep. All right. Let's do it now. MK updates. Don't forget a couple things. One, we're going to have an episode this Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, a remote one. Thank you, Jan Paul. Hollywood, Brian Campbell. Yes. Too sweet. There you go. There it is. All right. Yep. There it is. We are going to have an episode 11 a.m. What are we going to talk about? I don't know. I don't really know, but we'll be there. Luke Thomas, BC, the Long Island one himself, Nosita. Also, no show Monday. It's Labor Day. Enjoy yourselves. Okay. Don't drink and drive. Don't set off fireworks in your hand. Eat some glizzies for me. And then on Tuesday, we're going to have a live episode remote there. So check that out. Tuesday, 11 a.m., where I believe we will be unveiling the September MK merch exclusive. So head on over to morningcombat.shop right now. I heard we are sold out of this month's autograph posters. Thank you very much. There it is. Okay. There it is. What do you got, Lazy Bed? 75 milligrams of fun times going down the hatch. All right. Wow, brother. Wow. Get after it. There you go. Okay. And also from Ham Sandwich, we got to tell Luke to Luke was a little edgy to say the least. I saw them YouTube comments. They was a graveyard. Okay. We got to tell Luke to lighten up. The lad had a stick up his Yahoo on Monday. I think he had a lot of sticks, actually. I think all the sticks were up there. How dare you ask that man which MMA fighter inspires him? We love that guy though, just the same. But yeah, I don't know. He's been a little edgy lately. Maybe he should try the downers rather than the right, Zoe, rather than the disgusting energy drinks and vapes. But look, everybody's got a vice. Okay, for him, it's disgusting pornography. Apparently, all right. Apparently, yeah. Luke can get a little hot. Look, he's got body for days. He can get a little, he can get a little loose in turn 4 right there. We already know that. All right. What do you got? Intangible 79. BC still hasn't revealed. Yeah, I mean, look, these are personal questions. Okay, what are you trying to get out of me right now? All right. Yeah. Okay. There it is. You good? There it is. Okay. Topic number 1. Hey, just a little bit on this Canelo-Boots sparring. I think it's great. I was surprised how Canelo Alvarez is going to fight Terence Crawford, of course, and he brought in newly minted junior welterweight and former unified welterweight champion Philly's own Jaron Boots Ennis into camp. We saw the pictures, the videos. They're going to spar. Why? Because look, if you're going to find a 154 to mimic what the great Terence Crawford does, even though of course this will be a super middleweight fight, could you do any better than Jaron Boots Ennis? No. I thought it was interesting that a lot of people were either playing like racial elements into the reaction of it, of like, you're going to go join up with the white guy and turn against the culture. I'm like, how about just the fact that Jaron Ennis wants to be great? Maybe he doesn't always make the right matchmaking decisions for what we expect of him. Does he need 2 tune-ups at junior middleweight before taking on somebody with a pulse? I don't like that. You know what I mean? I do like Erickson Lubin versus Virgil Ortiz Jr., by the way. All right, Nikki V, what do you got? Yo, Nikki V. What's up, bro? Okay, thank you. Tim Bradley has the best take. I have not heard Tim Bradley's take intangible. If you want to share it here, jump into that chat. I think it's fantastic that he wants to up his game. And look, he's had, remember when him and Bud Crawford kind of had a back and forth a few times? That was obviously a fight we would have loved to have seen. We could have seen. We should have seen. Yes, we should have. I mean, it's 2 years. It's a little over 2 years since Bud did what he did to Spence. And what have we seen? One fight since then, Madrimov at 54. Bud doesn't owe us anything. He can do what he wants, but you would have loved to have seen Bud versus Boots. And there are videos out there of Bud in his car. Remember when he was like, yo, I will kill you in the streets, Boots. All right. And I believe in North Omaha, he will. Do you remember that story where Bud took his car to get detailed and the guy didn't do it right or charged him too much? And Bud went down there and put some hands on that guy. There's a backbone. Okay. There's a backbone in there. All right. Bud gets after it. We already know that. Where you at, Hammy? Ennis taking the Andre Ward route. Oh, you mean suing your promoter and sitting out 3 years? I hope he doesn't take that route. It kind of feels like it. But I agree with you, Il Java. All right, a little bit of that Il Dung. Ortiz Lubin is going to be fire. I would have loved to have seen Lubin Murtazaliev. I don't really understand why it fell apart. There's a lot of bullshit in the box right now. I mean, there's always, right? What did Paulie Malignaggi say? He said it's 2013. Athletes sleep with a lot of women. He also said boxing is full of shit. I used to love this game. There's a lot of shit out there right now. Look, the health of the box right now, 2 months ago, everybody, because everybody says boxing is dead all the time, right? It's like the Larry Merchant bit. But 2 months ago, I was fairly optimistic that the box was banging. And right now it's devoid. It's empty. All right. We can fit all of us in. There's nothing going on. Right. Does that make any sense? No. All right. Balloon Fart. Wow. That's a name right there. Balloon Fart 808. By the way, 10 out of 10 interview with Paul Hughes. Thank you. I think Paul Hughes is a great subject. He's honest. He'll talk tough. He's a little bit funny. I love his confidence, his ambition, all of that. So there you go. Okay, so here's what Intangible's talking about. Tim Bradley thinks Boots is a spy. I'm a spy in the house of love. Great Door song, right? Seriously. Not as good though as Soul Kitchen, which is my favorite Door song. I mean, I think I could hear that 5,000 times and never not be moved, right? All right. Is he a spy? For whom? For the culture? For Bud? I mean, it's always possible. We always hear that. We always hear that gamesmanship of, I got people in your camp. They're watching. I mean, I'm sure it's always been a big part of this game, but do I think he's a spy necessarily? No. Wasn't he at odds with Boots? Was that a ruse? Was this a long-term pro wrestling storyline? I don't know. Brody, what do you got on this topic? People aren't talking enough about Canelo's defense and head movement. Thank you. Crawford is going to be missing and eating counters. Yes, I mean, we talk about this every week. I went from everybody else going, man, if anybody could do this, it is Crawford. And I do still believe that. Crawford's super special. He's also inactive and getting older. And I just don't, cat hair just everywhere. I just don't, oh, Zoe, do you want the rake? Hold on. I just don't believe, folks, that Canelo's as old and washy as you do. I think he's going to come in killer shape. The motivation's going to be high. I don't think he's as motivated to get rid of Berlanga, Munguia, Charlo, and some of those other guys. And I do believe, look, I know there's excuses, but that 3-fight stretch where Canelo had the sore wrist and he couldn't train at full power, but knew he could still pull out the win against Ryder, the third Golovkin fight, the loss to Bivol. I actually think part of that is true. Either way, Canelo's great, and the power's real, and the chin's real. Okay, we're gonna have a lot of time to talk about this. Not too much time. September 13th, right around the corner. Boots looking huge. Yeah, he's probably between camps. He's not fighting enough lately. Crawford's looking huge. I want to see how he carries that extra muscle. I want to see if he can use that extra muscle to his advantage or if it'll slow him down. I think in some degree, you never really know until you're in there. It's going to be in a damn dome. I'm so fired up. Also, I wasn't going to this fight, and now it looked like I might. So more to come on that. Not that affects any of you out there. It really just affects me, but that kind of got me fired up. All right. I will not hold HE's hand. I will not hold HE's HAND. All right. And if I don't come back, folks, okay, then just know that I've enjoyed this stretch. Okay. So has Zoe. Zoe, how are we doing over here? There we go. All right. There it is. There it is. What else you got, Chin? Right? Right? Lazy bed. Thank you, Lazy. Sir Reginald and Lady Zoe of House Campbell. Yes, yes. Zoe is a tough lady. The other two cats, not big Zoe fans. They turn on her often. Yeah, it's true. All right. Zoe's kind of a loner, but she's like everyone's cat in the house. Everybody's got love for Zoe. That's a little too much, Zoe. Thank you. Thank you. What are you into today? I mean, do you have this in your house? I don't think so. How good's this right here? All right. I mean, Orale, right? Ariba La Raza. Is that what we're talking about? I don't know. I don't know. Okay, so yeah, that was interesting. It was a good thank you. That was a good, I think, a good partnership from Boots and Canelo. We'll see how that plays out. You got to get great sparring. Anyone following Rolly lately? Like born again Christian Rolly, who's like, I have no hate in my heart. I love everybody. I'm reading my Bible every night. Like, what a turn, right? Like, certainly I support those activities. I hope that doesn't affect his dry comedy. I know I'm the only one that is a is a longtime believer that Rolly's one of the most hilarious people. But the Rolly man, Rolando Romero, also now saying on the internet that he's considering a move up to 54 because 47 is getting hard to cut to. All right. He used to remember, how the heck did that guy make 35 back in the day? I don't know. I know you all think he ain't good, but if he fights Pacquiao in December and I get a chance to call that, I don't care what you think about that fight. Fired up. Okay. Fired up. We'll see. We'll see. What do you got, Long Island? BC, the two cats and the dog as the Death Row album cover would go hard. Oh my God. Can we get that on an Average Joe t-shirt and put it on at morningcombat.shop? Can we get a Reggie Jackson t-shirt on that ASAP? Can we sell that Long Island Luke bong, the Twin Towers bong photo on there too? I think somebody would buy that, right? Somebody. All right. All right. Yeah, somebody get Average Joe on the horn. Tell him, Lazy. Tell him. All right. Intangible. HE definitely knows who you are. I mean, probably. Yeah. Okay, he definitely does. He definitely does. Well, that look, whatever. All right. I'll go out doing what I love. Okay. That's the thing, right? That's the thing. Okay. Then you'll look back at this moment and be like, wow, that was weird and gnarly, but that's what it is. Okay. Yep. Yeah, Zoe is the thickest hair. I think she's part Himalayan. I mean, whatever, right? Whatever. But yeah, there she is. She's like 8 or 8, 9, 9, 8. What are you, Zoe? 20. Zoe, you were born in late 2016, December 16. All right. All right. Thank you. Whatever. Somebody do the math for me. Thank you. One more on this Canelo fight. Chinchilla. Bud being 38, Canelo being 35 does take a little bit of the fun out of it for me. Just looks like a cash grab. I mean, I would prefer that fights like this aren't made at this age. I do think this fight could have been made 2 years ago in the aftermath of Spence versus Crawford. I do understand that aftermath involved a lot of uncertainty in the game with PBC losing their home on Showtime and all that. But I would have preferred it a little bit earlier. You know, I would have preferred Spence Crawford not to be when they were 35 and 36 or whatever the ages were. I would have preferred Mayweather Pacquiao not to be 38 and 36. Sometimes we forget about that. We know that it was too late. We know that it took 5.5 years to get there. But even though those two, May and Pac, were number 1 and 2 pound for pound at the time, and yes, it was a fight billed as, the fight of who's the best in the weight class, in the pound for pound list, in the era. It really was all those at once. For sure, you would have liked that earlier. Okay, Arriba La Raza to everyone out here. All right, here we go. Yeah, if I'm asked to go to HE's room and Coppinger is the guide that, hand walks me there, like, just goodbye, folks. All right, goodbye. We had a good run. I don't know. I mean, I like Versace Reno. He's a wild man, and this is a weird gimmick these days, but I like that guy. Maybe I would only lose a hand, right? Turkey be like, which one you been tweeting with? Is it the right or the left? I'd be like, technically it was the right, but I'm looking to wipe comfortably the rest of my life. Go left. Get rid of this one. Okay. There we go. Something tossed salad. There we go. This is great. All right. Let's go to Plex Marshmallows. Zoe, I'm so done with your half. Yeah. Sorry, Zoe. Let me make you a priority for a second. Okay. Speaking of Maypac, never forget one of the greatest grifts that Showtime gave out to every journalist that covered that fight. Ray, if you got one of these, the framed thick plastic ticket. Great piece right there. Great piece. Okay. There it is. All right. All right. Ham sandwich. We all saw that coming when Rolly wished us happy Easter. Yeah, when Rolly was concussed out of his mind after that Pitbull Cruise KO. Jesse Lee's here. BC is awesome. BCX is awesome. This is awesome. Thanks for the content. Thank you for enjoying it and ingesting it. Thank you. All right. All right. So, folks, I want to stay in the box for a second. I mean, there's really not much going on in this damn box, but folks, you know what I like. I like old guy fights with big names. You know what I mean? And I cannot lie. I love the idea of a washed welter's contenders house. Now, PBC is not employing my idea, but we know where PBC's at right now. They got to put together some fights. They got to fill out a schedule. They got to do some big things. I don't know if it's true, but everybody for the last 24 hours has been reacting to that Jermell Charlo social media post of a lion with a big fish in his mouth with some level of a comment connected to that, which says ultimately there's no loyalty in this game. If you aren't keeping score, of course, Errol Spence Jr. and Jermell Charlo were once the two big fish in the giant stable of Derek James when there was a stretch where he was the elite trainer in this game. If this is what PBC has to do, put Thurman in there against Fundora, a fight I don't hate. Is it help that I'm calling that fight potentially? I guess. I also have been loving PBC fights for years and want to see these guys finish out their career. It's not fun to me, or maybe to any of you, when fighters reach a certain status at the peak of their prime, finally make money, and then you stop seeing them regularly. Obviously, it's their life. If the win for them was to win a title or two and get paid and get away from whatever circumstance they were initially in, then look, you won. You know what I mean? In your own way, you beat the game. But I want to see these fighters finish the story, Cody Rhodes. If Spence out for 2 years since the Terrence Crawford fight, us constantly wondering if he's ever going to box again. I get that people have sort of just given up that he's going to come back and be something. You could argue people have said the same thing about Jermell, who made a ton of money at the end of 23 against Canelo in a very, very not much of a motivational effort there, a very ho-hum effort. If they're going to go through each other in a big fight, man, I'm into this. Let's go. Okay. Is it morbid of me? I don't think so. I think it's going to be competitive. You're not really sure what you're going to get from them. They're a former teammate. Like, let's go. Let's go here. I can't be the only one in this chat that likes stuff like this. Am I? You into it? All right. All right. There you go. There you go. There it is. Okay. Dave, you really on a plane right now? Where are you flying to? I need information. All right. There it is. Danger Mouse. Bring back the MK Hub shirt. Nobody hoodie and get. Yeah, didn't you invent that, Danger Mouse? Did we not get permission from you, or is that why? I thought you turned on us for different reasons. Is that why? Maybe we owe you at least a t-shirt. Okay, contact Nocita at morningcombat.shop. There you go. There you go. Thank you. Anything else in the box? I think that's about it. Oh yeah, that's about it. Let's go to what else I got. All right, you want to talk a little music here? Let's do it, okay? Okay. Trying to see what else is going on here. All right. Oh, here we go. One more on the box here from Sydney Frankenstein. Yes, it is Misfits Boxing this weekend, which is always a hit or miss bag, in my opinion. It's the weird and wacky lane in the weird and wacky bubble that is crossover celebrity boxing. But to the credit of old Cali, and nobody parties like a Cali party with Cali Sauerland and Mams Taylor. They do get the attention of the world when they put on these fights, with Logan Paul or KSI or what have you. Darren Till versus Luke Rockhold, I kind of got to see it. But even with a size difference here, I don't know how you can not favor Darren Till. I'm not trying to make the case that Luke Rockhold isn't tough or anything. There was a point before he lost his title by upset to Michael Bisping that I felt he was entering the discussion of best pound for pound fighter in the world. And maybe if he hadn't fought a roided ass up 2013 Mohawk to Vitor Belfort in his UFC debut, maybe that career goes a little bit differently, that run. I don't know. He still ended up winning the championship. So shout out to him. But he succumbed fairly early to Mike Perry, a smaller fighter who just punched out his teeth and walked right through him. I'm going to favor Darren Till, who seems to have found a home in this sort of thing. I will find a way to watch it. I know that we're also getting Tony Ferguson's Salt Poppy, which is weird, and I got to see it. I think Dylan Dennis has an MMA fight on this card. I hope Andrew Tate's not there. I have no interest in anything related to that. But yeah, I'm going to be checking it out. There's going to be trash talking. There ain't nothing going on this weekend besides 2 days of CGI. And even though I love Craig Jones, and I'm sure we're going to preview this on Friday's MK, yeah, I mean, it's grappling. Maybe it's the coolest version of grappling, but it ain't. It isn't. What did Sean Porter once tell Errol Spence on PBC face to face? You ain't. It's not. It won't. I am. It's a long way from the lip to the cup. We good friends. I love your daddy. A few of those things here. What do you got, Lazy? Should make an MK Cracker Barrel shirt and LT's the guy in the rock. Yeah, okay. There it is. That would the time would be now, Long Island Luke. We created this website with the idea that we can turn shit quick. We got to turn this one quick, okay? Please, thank you. Well, you won't get any royalties, Lazy. All right, neither will Danger Mouse, but thank you. Maybe we'll get you a free t-shirt. Thank you. Okay. All right. Brody, did you see Riyadh is doing a comedy film? Yeah, big time names there. Did they get the Rogan Sphere or all those comics bad? I mean, podcast cringe is all over my algorithm lately. The Austin comedy scene and Turkey coming together is insane. In the membrane, yes. There's no slice of entertainment that old Turk 182 can't put his paws on, right? Right? Anyone get that new video game he loves? I don't know. All right, Brody, Errol Spence look happy. He's living on the farm. He don't need to fight. Yeah, I'm not making him. He made money too. He went through some shit too. But I would feel like the competitor in him would like one more. I had heard rumors that Spence could be seeking a comeback fight, could be seeking Virgil Ortiz big Texas fight. I don't know the realities of that, but if he's healthy enough to do it, I'd be in. Ham sandwich, Bill Burr being there is sad. Yeah, you can certainly make comments regarding that. All right. Okay. Thank you. Salute the Brian Campbell experience. Talk of SD. Yes, thank you. Salute it. Okay. Which email should I use? Long Island Luke, you got an email? Yeah, there you go. You got, yeah, you guys talk amongst yourselves. Okay, here we go. Let's talk music here. Oh no, real quick. Let's bring in Axe. Okay. By the way, Blake Axe Avignon, you know what I mean? Which is his pen name, and he's a fantastic writer over there on his Substack and on the MMA Draw. Great piece today on the MMA Draw, connecting the dots between Mayweather McGregor, UFC and TKO's green light of that. Remember, there was a long stretch where like that fight will never happen. Dana would never allow it. But did the allowance of it, of which they cashed in on, setback fighter pay even more? It's a very interesting read. Check that out. What do you got for me, Axe? Off topic, but Prime Video has interest in PFL if ESPN does not renew. That is interesting because with ESPN now out of boxing, it seems, since it doesn't look like they're getting Zuffa box, it doesn't look like they're going after any promotions. I had heard rumors for 6 months that they would. Doesn't seem like it now. They didn't get the UFC deal. Could they end up getting Dana White Contender Series and Tough? I don't know. Does that come in is that connected to these rumors that they might want to purchase UFC Fight Pass? I don't know that. But I am wondering, does Don Davis make out with women? No, just kidding. Does he make out well because of this? Or will it be PFL who severed ties? Axe was on top of that, right? They have, or they will, or already did with one championship. Hope they don't with PBC, but we'll have to see where that's going right there. All right. Brody Moret wants everybody to check out the new Deftones album. I am not equipped to talk about that. But I am equipped to talk about this. Okay. Being thick as a brick. Hey, Jethro Tull. Now, I'm always been honest with you guys that, classic rock radio lied to us, in the 90s and 2000s, meaning, I mean, like anything, it's like the same played out songs where you think a band based on the 2 hits they had that get played ad nauseum and you hear 37,000 times until you deep dive them. Genesis being one of those for me. I'm like, ooh, ill, brother, prog rock, right? But then you sort of enter the matrix, give it a chance, And I'm like, oh my God, Steve Hackett on guitar. Oh my God, I had no idea what a drummer Phil Collins was or what a performer Peter Gabriel was before his solo career. So Jethro Tull, I remember my dad having the Aqualung album and playing the title track. So I, sitting on a park bench, snots running down his nose. I certainly had heard their 3 or 4 biggest songs. But when you're 17 and your life are, the Stones, the Beatles, Zeppelin, and there's, Anderson getting out the flute and, we're rocking out. Like, it's like, not only did I not want anything to do with Prague, F the damn flute in rock and roll. Now I've grown to actually appreciate the flute, particularly Jerry Eubanks's flute playing in the Marshall Tucker band. Do you ever hear my favorite track from them, Heard It in a Love Song, which opens with a flute solo, which is tremendous. So even when I made the leap into vinyl, deep into 70s vinyl, and then even into prog rock. Now, I don't consider Jethro Tull to be like traditional prog rock. Prog rock is in some ways like an extension of, classical music meets some elements of psychedelic rock. There's different shades of prog rock. There's certainly metal. There's certainly, look at what King Crimson was doing in the early 70s and how their sound evolved. That's something completely different. When I think of prog, I always thought that meant Russian yes, really. Then you're like, okay, Genesis is doing something a little bit different. And then you realize there's elements of prog in a lot of early to mid 70s popular mainstream rock and roll music. Jethro Tull's prog is just all different altogether because in a lot of ways, well, first of all, Tull started out as like a jazz fusion band. So they're bringing in orchestration chops that are just different. But it's really the fact that they're so based in traditional English folk. I missed so much. When I first got into vinyl in the pandemic, I picked up a $20 used 1982 Quasar turntable music system from an old guy in Windsor, Connecticut. We talked for an hour in his garage. It was dusty. It was wonderful. I just threw it out last month. It gave me a good run for years. I went to the store right away. I bought I bought Electric Leyland by Jimmy, and I bought Dark Side of the Moon. I'm like, okay, this is where I'm going to start my foundation. But, like a lot of people, I fell into a lot of records. I don't mean a many of records. I mean a lot. I bought a lot of like 150 classic rock records from a lady in Wolcott, Connecticut, who was moving to Florida. And she was like, my son says there's a big value in here. And this was like right before the vinyl explosion went so mainstream that you can't get these type of deals anymore, right? Maybe at like a yard sale or garage sale, but like before everything adjusted and now we have true value on what this stuff. I mean, it's like, obviously I wish I got into vinyl in the 80s and 90s when people were throwing it away, right? When it was worthless. But I got a lot, and not many. I bought a lot of 150 records for like $50. And in hindsight, it's, that's the greatest way to start your collection. And it took me into all different genres that I hadn't been in or bands that I thought I knew. But look, we all have certain non-negotiable bands. I'm never going to love Kiss. I'm never going to love U2. I'm never going to love the B-52s or, we can keep going down this list, right? I've made an active decision that I will not give in. I will not find out the beauty in those things. I don't want to. The police are brilliant, but I just can't do it. So I remember they had every Police album I sold them. They had almost every Jethro Tull album. And I think I threw on 1 or 2 and I was just like, you know what? It is what I thought it was. No. And I never fell in. I mean, look, if Locomotive Breath comes on the radio at any point, you're going to stop what you're doing once that piano intro turns into that incredible guitar, hard, heavy. It's badass. But beyond there, you have these images in your head of really don't mind if I, it's like, okay, dude, that's a little too much. Like I can get into the rock English folk combo that is Led Zeppelin 3. That's brilliant. Thank you, John Paul Jones. Right. Damn, it's hot in here. But no. And then I would go on these showbox trips, and I'd work with this fella, Uncle Rick, I called him, longtime director of Showtime Boxing, Showbox in particular. And, we'd go out to dinner and we'd talk about vinyl, we'd talk about music. And, Rick was one of those guys who probably in his late 60s, and Rick Phillips, and he would, he had gone to, the Watkins Glen Festival. He had seen Zeppelin at the Garden. He had seen shit. He had seen Blind Faith at a show at the Fillmore East in New York when Rick Gretsch on bass was sick and Jack Bruce of Cream filled in. Could you imagine seeing Winwood, Bruce, Clapton, and Baker together playing the Blind Faith album? Good Lord. And I would, pick his brain like I do senior level people above me who have lived it, who have been experienced, right? And I'd always be like, what is the best live band? You saw Blind Faith. You saw the Almonds, when Dwayne was there. You saw this, you saw that. Damn, you saw Zeppelin at the Garden. Are you kidding me? And like 72, by the way, okay? And he's like, Jethro Tull, brother, like by far. And, that puts something in your brain that you're like, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was wrong. So I started watching some live concerts on YouTube in the eighth row deep. And then it's like, oh, Martin Bear, never heard of him. The brother can play guitar. Holy crap. And you see the effort put into the jamming, to how hard they're playing. You're like, okay, I'm wrong on that. But am I wrong on the way that their music is structured in their prime? Can I really get into that? Yeah, it turns out I can. I am here to stand correct. I've taken the Pepsi challenge and I can't stop listening to Jethro Tull. Okay. So first and foremost, right? Aqualung just blows my socks off, and it rocks more than it progs. But the interesting thing when you dig into the backstory on Aqualung is that, the critics sort of hailed it as a concept album, which it wasn't, tried to hail it as sort of a, major turn in progressive rock, which it wasn't. It was prog undertones, but it rocks. I mean, it friggin' rocks. And Jethro Tull took that almost as an insult to the level that they said, okay, you think this is prog rock? We're going to give you prog rock. In fact, we're going to make the most ridiculous progressive rock concept album of all time that everyone will be in on the joke to see how ridiculous prog rock really is. And by the way, all genres that don't last the test of time, and prog rock, to some degrees hasn't. I mean, obviously there's progressive metal today that's fantastic. What did Corey Marlin get me into? What have you been getting me into lately, Corey Marlin? What's that band? That modern band, Between the Buried and Me. Okay, the album Coma Ecliptic. I'm dating it right now. All right. I don't like the death metal vocals on some of it, but that music is tremendous. But of the genres that don't last the test of time, when they get played out, they get, because every genre that's popular, eventually the pop mainstream is going to get a piece of it and then eventually ruin it. For as great as grunge was in the mid 90s, eventually that got so played out that it became that dead era of rock and roll in the late 90s, early 2000s with Nickelback and Stained and all that, But in between, in that transfer in between from traditional hard grunge to pop grunge, we still had moments. We still had the Third Eye Blind self-titled album, right? We still had some of that music in between that was there. Prog got absolutely ridiculous and blown out of proportion. I mean, I've got so many Emerson, Lake and Palmer records, and ELP is great. I mean, that is traditional progressive rock, but it gets excessive quickly. Okay. It gets out of control quickly. I love that Jethro Tull for Thick as a Brick, which is one of the best album sleeves and covers at all time. A purposely goofy fake newspaper that actually has a newspaper inside of it that you pull out. And they're like, we're going to be the most prog record of all time, and everyone's going to get the joke. And what they did was made one song across the whole album with no breaks. It's just one long suite, right? And it's like purposely proggy. And it instantly gets hailed as like the greatest progressive rock album of all time and an instant classic. And the band's like, yeah, you didn't get the joke again. Right now I'm basically bouncing between Aqualung and Thick as a Brick, and then finding a little bit of time for Minstrel in the Gallery, which also rocks. I've got a couple other they're off market ones I'm starting to chip away at, but that's the prime crux for me right there. And you know what? Tull bangs. Okay. Talk about it, Danger Mouse. Tull bangs. All right. Nosita knows his Australian dad's been playing Aqualung since the beginning. Okay. All right. Yes. Please smoke them if you got them. Rar, rar. Speaking of smoking and gotten them, Long Island Luke knows our buddy Espresso Cannabis sent something to the P.O. box. Good Lord. Danger Mouse saw them at Sheffield City Hall. What year, Danger? Okay. What year? All right. I mean, you ever listen to Tull on weed, lazy? Okay. All right. There's a guy in the bushes. Red team go. All right. All right. I got to turn on the AC and let Zoe out. So why don't you just listen to Floyd for a second? All right?
Take one round at a time. Let him shoot his low, and then down the stretch, do what we do best.
When did you think that the fight was starting to turn? When he had shot his load and you could come out?
When he started shooting his low in the first half of the fight.
Yeah. First thing I need to do is make him shoot his load. Okay. So like, I'm not reinventing the wheel here. Okay. This just in, great classic rock band actually rules. But what do you got, old man Dave? I think Tull had an amazing flute collection. My high school friend that was into heroin loved. Good Lord. Thank you. They're heavy as shit. Their prog stuff is not overwhelming and annoying. It's brilliant. The orchestration, and that's really the leader. What is this? Is it Ian Anderson? Hold on. I don't want to get it wrong mixed with the lead singer of Yes. Like, you can screw up the names here quickly. All right. We are talking about Ian Anderson. Yes. Ian Anderson's, he plays flute, acoustic guitar, a few other things. His orchestration, his ability to, Thick as a Brick alone, being a two-sided single song is just this epic. Damn. Like, right, Dad? Like, what? Oh, did you make that as your avatar? Okay, that's worth playing it. Not my dad, but thank you, Dad. Just the same, okay. This is what's going to be like, when I meet Turkey. Right?
He was the best guy around.
What about the people he murdered?
What murder?
Yeah. What about the tutu jail? What tutu jail? No. So I'm going to really say, most people here, it seems to have taken the Pepsi challenge already. Danger Mouse. I was reading an article about Tull's prog rock album being kind of an in-joke today. Perfect timing, right? Perfect timing. Okay. Quick aside from Balloon Fart, look into Hard Men Working Hard if you want some crazy tunes. Is that a band or an album or a movement? You tell me, okay? Danger Mouse. So Songs from the Wood, that was the Tull. So that was one of those I sold, man. I had Songs from the Wood, which I believe is very folky, right? Very folky in that regard. But, they do power rock well. They obviously do prog well. They go hard. Martin Barr can bang on guitar. They can play blues rock. Their instrumentation compared to regular rock, right? Because obviously progressive rock is known for its sort of implementation and its classical roots, is next level. You want more traditional rock? Listen to the Aqualung album. You want to just find out them at their peak. Right now, it's Thick as a Brick for me, that record. So there we go. I'm a Tull casual, but I'm in here. I don't know if they have any live albums. If they do, I'm going to scoop it up. But I've been checking out the full concerts lately too on YouTube from the prime run there. And, I'm going to get over the dancing flute. Okay. Now I'm starting to become endearing. That's just me talking out of my a-hole. Thank you very much. What do you got, Dave Armstrong? Boxing casual here. Are boxing fans as eager to dismiss past greats' resumes as MMA fans? Seems unique to MMA. No, they're not as willing. People hold huge reverence to it. People are more quick to try to understand the past, or at least the major players. And boxing's different from MMA in almost every other sport in the fact that it really felt like for decades, the great the skills were regressing because of the removal of a boxing gym on every street corner in every major city, right? The fallout reality of seeing the heroes of the 60s and 70s who fought 150, 200 times and went through gym wars and had such early onset CTE that it probably created a sea change, the famous Burt Sugar line of where all the American heavyweights, they're playing linebacker for the Ravens. I mean, you can also catch CT in that sport too, but no, it's weird in MMA. It's a combination of how quickly the fan base turns around. And some of that, I believe, is because they are making an effort, meaning the UFC and TKO, to not try to overinflate stars, not try to create 2-3 stars that they'll need to survive. They did that at times when they needed to. Now the power of the brand is so strong that I think that is what creates sort of you come in at some point. A lot of people came in during the pandemic. A lot of people came in when Conor exploded. A lot of people came in when Ronda exploded. Same thing when Brock Lesnar made the transition from pro wrestling. I think when you get hooked, you get in there, man, and then maybe it wears you down and it's not the same anymore. The sport is also so young that it's evolving so quickly that if you started watching MMA in 2004 and 5 and you got young Nick Diaz, and we forget until we go back and watch, is even the championship fights in that era, they were still fights, right? They weren't like technical exhibitions that have blood. They were fights. Yes, if you used your technique within battle, you're probably going to get your hand raised. Think of like a BJ Penn in that era, who was the king of kings for a stretch there. But I think, as the sport evolves and you go into periods where it's wrestling heavy, we're there again with the Dagestans, the Chechen guys, we're back there again where maybe you're going, man, this is boring. I'm more of a boxing guy. I don't want to see grown men in panties rolling on the floor. Bernard Hopkins, meet me in the men's room just the same. MMA is a bunch of skin. Yeah, okay. We know where that's going. Boxing, though, it's also really hard to get a grasp on history because of grainy footage, because of stretches where big fights weren't, televised. I mean, it's just different. It is different. But let's not miss too, the UFC doesn't aggressively lean on its past. It's always about what's next. It's always about the brand and Dana, but it's always about what's next. Yes, they have the Hall of Fame. Yes, there is legendary fighters who are still a big part of the machine, Daniel Cormier, whatever. GSP hasn't died out, or Anderson Silva in being recognizable or being beloved, but they turn over so quickly and they've never been about leaning on the past. And if you get on the wrong side of them, like Randy Cooter, you're not going to be part of the way they tell their history. That's just the reality right there. Okay. What do you got, Lazy? Someday we'll discuss my favorite traditional Mongolian groove metal crossover band, The Who. Not not Pete Townsend. You're talking about the HU. Interesting. Let's bring black in the axe. Yeah, let's bring back in the axe. Off topic, but we hit that already. Thank you, Axe. Yes, thank you. All right. So we talk Tull, we talk fights. Now it's your time. Send your questions. I'll react to them. Yes, the super chat is open. It is a straight up grift. Okay. But it does help the cause. Thank you for playing. Here we go. All right. I'm trying to get in here. What do you got, Brody? I missed the Honda Housey days of MMA. She was great for the sport. She really was great for the sport. She became, almost a, her dislike of the media, the way she handled herself between the Holm and Nunes fights, the way she just sort of disappeared right after the peak of her prime. She can be, I'm not saying stained her legacy, but people have a lot of times, sometimes negative connotations to say about her. And I get that, but yes, it was really fun when she was on top. It was really fun when Brock was in the spotlight. It was really fun when Conor was there. Stars drive the vehicle. Okay. And I think that's part of, even though it's hard to criticize UFC when they just signed a deal for $7.7 million for $1.1 billion per year. It's like, who's to say they're not doing it right? But I love when it's a star-driven sport. No, all these sports are. All of sports is. Why do you think the NFL changes the rules to protect the quarterbacks? Everything is star-driven. It's the catnip to get you in there. Not everybody's just a purist that's going to be here for 40 or 50 years. All right. That's the reality of it. But yeah, the Ronda run was fun. She had that legit Mike Tyson aura of whoever it is across from her, she's going to finish them in like 15 seconds. And that's insane. All right. That's insane. Lazy, where you at now? Had a friend with a super nerdy older brother that loved Rush. Typically the case. I bet you he was listening while repairing his car in the garage. He would say, I have a condition called Neil Peart syndrome, where at any given moment I need to be surrounded by 360 degrees of drums. Yeah. So as I've talked about often, I mean, Rush did always annoy me. Geddy Lee annoys the shit out of me. I certainly understand from my very generic understanding of that band that they're absolutely brilliant and that Neil might be the greatest, rock drummer of all time, him and Bonham and Keith Moon, and Billy Cobham, my favorite jazz fusion power drummer. Good Lord, with Mahavishnu, with his solo albums. Yes. But I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready, but yes, I am prepared to be blown away when it's my time with that band. There's no question about it. Okay, there's no question. Let's go back to Brody M. Crawford is going to try to fight fire with fire and get knocked out. He might. No, he's going to try to pick his spots. I don't know. I've always had this feeling. It always takes me back to the Brightest Prescott win. The first couple times Crawford appeared on HBO when he wasn't exciting and when he was just such a great boxer with long arms and control of everything, I always knew that if it gets hairy for him, he could probably win a boring fight as easily as he wanted to against everyone. Will he end up trying that in this fight if he has to, if he's falling back down in rounds, if he gets dropped? I don't know. He also has a backbone like no other. That might trigger him saying, F it. I'm going to try to be great and go out this way. A lot of people saying the same thing. Crawford's going to try inside fighting and get clocked. I do think he's going to be humbled by Canelo's real power. Canelo to the body. Unless Crawford's going to trick us and come in here and be on his wheels. But it doesn't seem like it with the bulk he's putting on. We'll see. Okay, we'll see. We'll see. Brody thinks Canelo's going to beat up that ass. We'll see. Okay. Marc-Antoine Dossele Barrio, our favorite French mixed martial artist. BC, what's the video you sometimes put up of a woman asking if you are married and why do you show it all the time? I show it because, oh my God, I interrupted this program to tell you, Nosita just sent me a Luke Thomas image of that Cracker Barrel. Nosita, put there, if you're listening, let me type this in caps for you. Put it on website now. Or that can be our exclusive for next month. Good Lord, we need to sell that thing. Okay. So yeah, as I've touched base before, you want to see it? You want to see it, Marc-Antoine? Okay. I play it because it's ridiculous, but
just personal, whatever you want to do to bond. We
So
may
are you
cut
married?
this out later. No. Are you?
No.
Good. All right, switch places. You have 11 points. Congratulations on that.
One day, Mikey and I are going to put out this mini documentary we're going to put together on my appearance on 2 Minute Drill in 2001 at the age of 22, the ESPN trivia show hosted by Kenny Mayne. What you don't understand now, because I really haven't revealed that side of myself, is I was a nerd genius savant sports trivia memorizer of my entire youth through college. Put me in a group at a keg party or in the high school lunch group, and you'd have 30 people coming over trying to stump me, and they couldn't. And if they could, I'd just go home that night and mesmerize everything of that category. It was my passion. I was weird. I collected baseball, football, basketball almanacs every year and read every inch of them. That specific scene, though, was from that episode. Spoiler alert, I kind of got screwed by the show over a mistake that happened that cost me points and time. I was angry about it. In the commercial break, I let the producers know about that. I'm like, I signed 77 pages of legal paperwork that said, if anything happens in this situation, they will stop down on the show and deal with it. And you're trying to push this through. I was frustrated. I also had started the episode by making a somewhat lame when, Kenny Mayne was like, tell us about yourself. And I was just like, yeah, who cares about me? I just want to say hi to Carol over there, just sort of being a flirty dirtbag. And so after I was sort of screwed, to make it better, Kenny Mayne was like, we feel bad here for Brian. So Carol, ask him anything, ask him a question. And that's what she asked me. And that's what your boy did, a lame return fire. We'll see what happens. I got to get that. As I told you, That video didn't exist until Alex Walkuski's mom, RIP, passed away, and he found the VHS tape in the collection that said Soup's Game Show. All right, there we go. There we go right there. Okay. What do you got, Hammy? Rhonda believed her own hype and got heed kicked for it. Yes, she did. Heed down in front. There it is. Okay. There's a piper down. There's a piper down. Anyone know that movie? Am I alone here? All right. Now I'm going to run through some of these that I've been starring. It's starring BC. Here we go. New York Mets, NYM. Thank you. Thank you for the donation, brother. What does Lug Thomas, or why does Lug glaze Sean Brady so much? He got pieced up by Chiesa, standing KO'd by Bilal, and hasn't stood up with either of his last opponents. Ian Machado Gary smoked some. I mean, let me push back a little bit. One, Sean Brady's a hard-ass worker, a good guy, it seems, and like somebody that I'm generally going to root for. He's hard-nosed, Philly tough. He doesn't cut corners. He works his ass off. Luke loves his tattoos. They have a shared love for that style. And when he did Room Service Diaries with us, and we filmed that, I believe, so he was in the second ever RSD. And if I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone that worked on that with us, I believe that was we filmed the Glover Teixeira episode and the Sean Brady episode in the first, in the first day, like back to back. We used to do that a lot of times. We'd get together in the Jersey City studio and have like 2 days of filming all day back to back, and then do like a Room Service Diaries OG version at night. Yeah, Japanese tattoos, Brody. Tell us about it right there. There you go. They're sick. Yeah, they are pretty sick. Our guy, Sean Brady, could not have been more cool, by the way. Like, just playing into our jokes. He brought us t-shirts that had like his tattoo design on the back. His girl was with him, was super, super nice and sweet. And he was just badass. We made a deal that we were going to go bring cameras to the gym in Philly and eat tacos and cheesesteaks with him. And I think we even made a bet that if he beat Bilal, I was going to get my first ever tattoo and it was going to be MK inspired. He didn't. I get that he didn't look great in that round against Chiesa late. I think he's a hard-nosed fighter. I don't think he's a complete fighter. I don't think he has yet to show us the complete rounded out striking game that will make him undoubtedly a true title contender. But I do believe he's rebounded from that Bilal loss. I do believe Luke likes him, understands that he's hard-nosed, that if he can control the wrestling, he can beat almost anybody. Do I think what I favor him against Ian Gary? No. I've come around to realize Ian Gary has special skills. I don't know if he's a special fighter, but he has better skills than people realize, okay? And also Layla, got me on my knees, right? There we go. But does he glaze him? I don't know. Sometimes when you meet a guy, a fighter, and and Luke understands, you can get to a point sometimes where you're like, damn, are all these fighters just edgy and weird and lame? But, you meet one and they're super cool, and you're just like, hard not to cheer for that guy. I've always tried not to stay in contact with fighters directly. I don't want to become boys with them because inevitably I'm going to be honest about my analysis and maybe maybe know that I'm going to step on toes. But, Brandon Royval, friend of the show, loved getting to know him. Anthony Smith, when we had him on RSD, he was awesome. So it is hard not to love him. Maybe that can color your analysis, or maybe Luke, as a fan of tattoos, ass tats, and wrestling, just go Sean Brady's my guy. There you go. Shout out to Luke Thomas and Sean Brady. There it is. Whoop. There it is. Okay. Okay. This is Corey Johnson responding to this. So using New York Mets' logic, Gary sucks on the feet because he chose to take down Pratis. Strategy is now stupid, according to this donk. Wow. Donk on donk action right there. And I also agree with Harrison Carrata. All right. Home of the carotid artery. Brady got way better since I do agree. He got way better since the fight with Bilal, but I do not think yet he has given us a full showcase. He showed signs of better striking, but he hasn't given us that full showcase of it yet. Maybe he hasn't had to. Maybe he's playing strategic MMA and trying to win. Is there something wrong with that? No. Okay. And yes, Anthony Smith did say on that same RSD, thank you, C, that John Jones isn't really that good. I mean, what he was really trying to say is that John Jones when Anthony was across from him. And I don't agree with it under any terms, but what he was trying to say is that John isn't great in one area. It starts to look average in every area, but the totality of every area is what kicks your ass. Also, John is freaking great. Okay. That too. All right. There it is. All right. There it is. A lot of Anthony Smith haters in the chat today. Hey, Big Papa Telvin Key Papa of Hawaii fame. Thank you. Telvin, what island do you live on? Can we out you with that? All right. I don't know. You tell me. Also from Cosmo Kramer. Yo, Sean Brady would whoop that ass, NYM. Okay. I don't know if anyone's really arguing that. All right. A music recommendation from the Mustachio Dad. BC, listen to Animals as Leaders, the jam band of Prague. Degenerative hip disease. You're telling me to listen to Animals as Leaders. All right. Thank you, Mustache Dad. I'll give it a try. I will give that Shiat a try. Thank you. Okay. All right, man, these questions coming fast. Can't keep up. Telvin Kipapa, for those scoring at home, lives on the island of Maui. Okay, all right. I'll look you up when I get there one day with the family. It'll be me, you, Dog the Bounty Hunter's kids. It'll be great. All right, we'll call up Daz and mahalo that ass. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Okay. All right. Back to these regular schedule questions. Here we go. Blood and Beer. BC, what are your thoughts on UFC Fight Pass potentially going to ESPN DTC? How do you think it will affect regional MMA? I really need to understand better, like, what they're doing. Are they buying it? Are they just essentially buying the entire backlog of content, the library, and all the regional promotions in boxing and MMA and grappling that air live on there, and all of the bonus UFC documentary content, social media content, whatever, like all those, they grab a fighter and go to his hometown. I watched that one of Montana De La Rosa that time. All right. They went down to Azle, Texas, and we learned the story. Okay. Is that all that stuff just going to be put into ESPN Plus or whatever this new ESPN Fox app thing is that confuses me? I really don't know. But you wonder, does this have something to do with two things? One, does this help ESPN retain a certain level of highlight rights for UFC, even though they lost the package? And B, does this have any connection, and I don't know the answer, to them potentially getting Dana White Contender Series and the Ultimate Fighter? I don't know that. All right? I don't know that. But my thoughts on it are, if you thought you were getting a piece of the UFC deal, if not almost all of it, and I was told by very good sources that the night before the Paramount deal was official, ESPN thought they were still getting almost all of it. It had to be a kick in the bag, and maybe they're scrambling to say, like, we got to get a piece of something UFC here because our customers know us for UFC for the last X amount of years. I could understand that if that's true. I could understand that. All right. Thank you. Also from Telvin, thank you, Telvin, for updating me this. Baby Lisa, me, you, Daz, and the Pineapple Princess, Alimale McFarland. Okay, some of my favorite Hawaiians right there, all right? Baby Lisa and I follow each other on socials. Same with Dwayne Chapman, the son of Dog. Same with Justin Behog. You know that dude, the nephew? Is he like a nephew or a friend? He's at war right now with Baby Lisa, though. I mean, I'm in on this stuff. Okay. I'm in on this stuff. There we go. All right. There it is. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Not Daz, Telvin, for being you. Thank you. Okay. Appreciate all this shit. All right. Let's keep it going. This is, Joe at Run Dem Cheeks. That's my guy. Joe was part of a big MK Dead Wrong the other day. Appreciate that. Thank you always for being here and talking a little Muzak with me. BC, what is your favorite MTV Unplugged performance? What a great question, because obviously the launch of this freaking fantastic program was in my absolute wheelhouse of 90s music and I mean, look, MTV was my life from the May 1st, 1984, when we moved it into our first house at the age of 5. And I got the cable box with 66 channels for the first time. And I always tell you that story, how I turned it on, and MTV was the first channel. And I don't think I turned it off for days. through the spring break years. I mean, I don't think I stopped watching MTV as like 70% of my TV watching until like 2002. And that's a pretty shameful thing to admit, because that last stretch, there's no music. It's just lame reality shows and TRL. But to answer your question, Nirvana is the greatest show. And it wasn't fully electric or acoustic. We know that, you know what I mean? What was Kurt Cobain was kind of playing in an electric acoustic, but you got Pat Smear jumping in there. It is, I mean, that's my favorite version of Nirvana today. I don't want to call what I've had with Nirvana a love-hate, because it's really not a hate. I was there for all of their key albums, listening to them with countless people. I didn't own them. My dad had a couple. He had In Utero. He had the Unplugged. I don't think he ever had Smells Like Teen Spirit, but if you were alive when that record came out, there's not a chance you don't know every single song on Smells Like Teen Spirit. That was one of the, I mean, that changed a genre, right? I always say our 6th and 7th grade dances were the same hip hop tunes playing in circles while the whole gym stood in a circle. So Gina Perez and Joe Edmonds could do hip hop dances in the middle. And then when this album came out, I remember one dance in middle school in 8th grade, they played Smells Like Teen Spirit 3 separate times. You know what I mean? The Nevermind album, obviously, was what I was talking about. Did I call it the wrong thing? This is such a brilliant performance. And it was never love-hate for me. I just don't put them in the pantheon like people do. I believe they would have changed their reputation as their music output dipped and the quality of it changed. That's just my belief. I do believe they were brilliant. I love how Kurt Cobain was influenced by the Beatles as a songwriter, but had that, hard, dark edge to him. I love the power of the trio. I love a lot of that. The songs, I don't listen to Nirvana a lot because it is very dark in a lot of ways and doesn't fully connect with me. But I do listen to the Unplugged a lot. I mean, their cover of David Bowie's The Man Who Sold the World is one of those rare songs that's like arguably better than the original, right? In so many ways. Even the Meat Puppets covers, all of them. It's just, it's amazing. It is so damn amazing. Alice in Chains was a great Unplugged on there. I had that CD as well. My dad played the Eric Clapton Unplugged like it was going out of style. What else we got on that one? Yeah, it was Nevermind. Did I call the album Smells Like Teen Spirit? My bad. Thank you. What has Brody got? Lane Staley with the pink hair off the heroin is unmatched aura. No doubt about it. There were just some absolutely awesome performances there. I'm going to look it up in a second. Yeah, Ham Sandwich. BC makes me want to dig into some of this music. Let me call up that lineup and see what I'm missing in terms of the all-time great. All right. MTV Unplugged. That debuted in 1989. I would not have guessed that. Okay. The 10,000 Maniacs performance from 1993. My sister was a monster Natalie Merchant and Maniacs fan. That was pretty damn awesome. Okay. Nirvana was the top. I say Alice in Chains was number 2. Page Implants. I don't know. I didn't necessarily love that. That's just on me. Okay. Do we have a list here though? Man, there was a lot more episodes. I mean, I remember the Springsteen one, the Dylan one. Didn't really love either of them. Didn't necessarily love the Eagles reunion one. I don't remember this Lenny Kravitz one or this Phil Collins one. Damn. I might want to go back and invest in some of these. But I did see a lot. Yeah, I remember Live. I remember the Cranberries episode. And there's a lot more than I remember. Great question, Joe. Appreciate that. Can't stay in this topic forever. I got to launch this music podcast already. I mean, that's basically what this show is. Okay. Lazy bit. I like Natalie Imbruglia more than Natalie Merchant. No. Natalie Merchant, the Tiger Lily record? I still play that every once in a while. That was probably like, if you said to me, like, what's your sister's taste in music back in the day? I'd say Tiger Lily by Natalie Merchant. There's something about putting on Carnival, her hit off that album, hearing that Spanish guitar solo in the middle of it. I mean, it is pretty damn awesome. Okay. Thank you. Telvin, also, I'm a factory worker, BC, going off your last week's show so you are a factory worker. So it really wasn't out of place when I said the Factory Town MMA promotion was going to put on you versus Daz. Shout out to you. Yeah, that was pretty awesome when I did that very early show, and that was 3 a.m. Hawaii time. And, if it's 3 a.m., either you must be lonely or Nosita's live streaming a UFC Shanghai undercard. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, Dave knows. Dave knows about Merchant. She had some talent there for sure. All right. My sister was also like remember before Dave Matthews got played out, like the early stuff was great. She was way ahead on that. Way ahead, and loved that. Back when I thought they were lame. And then I got into them, and then I did realize they were lame. But it's something about, being in your 40s and going back to like the prime, like Dave Matthews, like either look, say what you want about the DMB. The Live at Red Rocks album from 95 is still one of the best live albums of all time. The Live at Luther College album with Tim Reynolds still pretty much bangs. If I'm going to put the fire in the backyard and we're going to sit out there, I might put that on. All right. I might put that on. Thank you. Thank you so much. There we go, man. So many questions coming. I can't even do it. Dude, lazy, but Flagpole Sitta by Harvey Danger was one of my 3 favorite songs of the 90s. Yes, it's about masturbation. Yes, I was a Flagpole Sitta, but yes, there you go. All right. It still bangs today. Okay. And as Dave will tell you, these are the days, right? To remember never before and never since. All right. Great question. Let's keep it rolling. Let's move it. Let's go over to 7-6. All right. Not 6-7. Dude, am I the only dad who can't stop hearing my kids say 6-7? Like, cut it out already. 6-7. What are we doing here? All right. This meme life. Okay. I don't know. There's so much Italian brain rot in my house. Get it out of there. I hate being the old dad, right? Normally I'm the one annoying them with the meme lines, right? Like, I got this bit where it makes my wife so mad, where I'm like, yo, kids, you see the latest video from AJ and Big Justice? And they're just like, stop already. Charles Jourdain versus Davey Grant and Kyle Prepolek versus Drew Dober. Yes, added to UFC. Dude, UFC Vancouver card rules. These 2 fights, pretty good. Let's add them on. Let's go. Interesting rumors, and I don't know if they're true, because, you really can't trust anything on MMA Twitter anymore, right? But I will say, are we getting Ilya, Justin, and Pantoja versus Josh Van at MSG? If that's the case, I don't hate. Now, do I want Justin Gaethje for Topuria next? No. But if that's the case, I don't hate. And then I see people say, no, that's not true. Ilya won't be there. I don't know. I thought we were getting Islam versus JDM. Is Islam JDM going to kick off the Paramount era in January? I don't know that either. There's still a December pay-per-view. And how about the big rumors that Whaley could be giving up the straw title to fight Valentina, and then they could be doing Dern, Janji Roba for the vacant, which is a ridiculously weird fight too. Don't know if that's true. Tune in for more. All right, there we go. All right. Saul's here from Louisville, straight off the gutter. That's my guy. Nobody goes to morningcombat.shop more than this guy. We need to just give him nothing but free merch from this point out. All right. Saul says, September 20th. Cooney, are you talking about LA comedian Cooney from 10 Minutes of Shab? Cooney and Jerry will be doing a 24-hour live stream of my favorite comedy special, The Gringo Pop. Are they really? Will you show up for Du Bois on stream? Yes, I will. Are you really doing? So I owe Cooney. I owe him an appearance on Raccoon Titties or whatever he's got going on there, or 10 Minutes of Shab. I kept turning him down because I don't know, man. I didn't want to be the poster boy of Shabisms, but I guess sometimes I am. I owe you, Cooney. I owe you one. You're a good dude, and Gerardo too. That's interesting, Saul. First of all, Saul, thank you for supporting the show. I should support you over there in Louisville. Thank you. But that's wild. Are they going to do the whole set? Are they going to? Damn. All right. Wow. Yes. Let's hear from Blood and Beer, a newcomer in these parts. Dern gets smoked by Janjiroba. That fight outsells McGregor Habib by 1 million, no doubt. Yeah, probably. Can you imagine if Dern is the UFC champion? I mean, I know she's on a 2-fight win streak, but could you imagine if she becomes champion? Wow. All right. Oh, user 710. They are watching the special on repeat for 24 hours. That's pretty interesting. I was hoping that they were going to do the set like joke for joke. Like that would be interesting too. That would be really interesting. All right. Nikki V's in the house. BC, what about Ortiz Lubin? I think that's how you spell it. Yeah, I love that fight. I love that fight a lot. Erickson Lubin, he'll get you or he'll get got. That's what it is. And we want to see Virgil Ortiz at 54 in nothing but big fights. It's kind of crazy that he hasn't fought for a belt yet, even though he has hard fought wins over Bohachuk and Madrimov. I'd prefer to see him against Mirzaliev to see if he can pick up a belt right now, but this is a great fight against two deserving elite contenders. It will be a war. I think he's certainly have to favor Ortiz because of Lubin's history of his chin. He's brave, but the chin certainly can backfire. 1 second. Okay. You got to stop for the lady. That's how that works. Okay. That is how it works. Let's keep this rolling. Picture me rolling in a 500 Benz. Okay. I got no love for these beeps, right? All right. We're going too far right there. Okay. That's what it is. Cosmo Kramer, why did Chris Farley have to die so early? Hard drugs. That's why, unfortunately. But yeah, that's what a comedic legacy that guy left behind. I mean, when we think of his SNL run, we think, of course, of like Van Down by the River and the big hits, but it's like the stuff you forget. Like when him and Chris Rock used to do I'm Chillin'. Remember that skit? And it was like a cable access rap show and like a condemned New York City apartment. You know what I mean? And Farley be like, yo, I'm chilling like Bob Dylan and I'm killing like penicillin. So good. Remember when he would be the fat girl folding jeans in the store? And then, of course, all of his appearances in everyone else's movies like Airheads, Wayne's World, legendary. His own movies, legendary. But he has a destructive life and habit, of course. It's tough. It's tough. Okay. Yeah, there we go. BC, that Tupac song you just referenced was off his best album. Are we talking about the double album, All Eyes on Me? Because that is, I think, his best record. The only Tupac records I ever bought, I bought Tupacalypse Now on cassette because I was such a huge fan of Digital Underground, and Tupac was like a backup singer and dancer in that. And then I bought his greatest hits on CD remember when Changes came out, and then they put that out, and then yeah, that was just great. I never owned the album by album classics, but All Eyes on Me is my favorite album. It should be everybody's, I think, right? All right. What else we got here? Hihachi Mishima. Thank you, sir. Wow, that's a great name too. Thig as a Brig Bappa. Yeah, hell yeah. All right. Really don't mind if I can. You see Shab talking to Callan about his 9-year-old son just not having the yeah, that was wild. That was pretty wild. But thank you, Hey Hachi. Thank you. Okay. Yo, Hey Hachi. Thank you, brother. Okay, thank you. All right. I think we hit that one already. Yep. Thank you. Thank you. Sydney Frankenstein. Why was it called Zuffa boxing? Wasn't that some Italian word that the Italian Fertitta brothers? What does it mean? I don't know what it means. I don't speak Italian. Anybody else in here do? Let's see. Zuffa is an Italian word meaning brawl, scuffle, or fight. So there you go. It can refer to a short, intense fight, a brawl, or a scuffle. It can also be used figuratively to describe a heated argument. Yes, so some people know, they've had a few Zuffas in their time, okay? All right. Oh, man, I just deleted the question I wanted to answer. Mark Bousselet, you could send me that okay computer question. I just deleted it. I can't find it. All right, there we go. Thank you. I was going to answer it. All right, thank you. All right. Thank you for these super chats, people. Thank you, MMA Fanatic. I appreciate that. Why was Danny Garcia versus Rod Salka sanctioned? You're talking about August of 2014. on Showtime, a very, very rightfully so maligned fight. Why are we slow playing DSG versus Lamont Peterson in separate bouts when they needed to fight each other? Well, we found out it was because Al Heyman was waiting on his big matchups to launch the PBC in January of 2015. Unfortunately, Showtime took the fall in the meantime, putting on matchups like this. Was that the biggest nationally televised mismatch in modern history? From my memory, yes. In fact, I was making an updated broadcasting reel in the last couple days of my big moments, and I found an old link online of me doing the first time I ever was on TV for ESPN, not digital but television, was on an episode of Friday Night Fights in 2014, the night before Garcia Salka, where I was replaced Dan Raphael in the studio. And I was the analyst, and we talked about the latest news. And I remember we talked about that because Garcia was like a 50-1 favorite or something just absurd. And he made like $900,000 for that fight. And I interviewed both guys in the lead up on my ESPN.com digital show, Making the Rounds. And we knew it was going to be a slaughter. It was a disgusting slaughter. In fact, the way that, Danny Garcia had that patented combination where you throw a right hand to the body to bring your guard down and then hit you with that looping killer left hand, the one that killed Eric Morales in their rematch in the opening night of the Barclays Center in 2012, the one that knocked down Amir Khan and set the stage for that upset KO. That one he landed, and Salka took it flush. And what's crazy is Spatty was in his corner, Paul Spadafora, who had like gray sweatpants, a gray t-shirt, and had like the Brian Bosworth shavings in the side of his head. So Salka's hurt. Garcia hits him to the body, hits him with that left hook. Salka's out on his feet. I'm watching right in front of me as Spadafora picks up the towel, and as he goes to throw it, Danny comes back with the exact same combination and knocks him out cold. And it is the sound that punch made was just made you want to throw up. It was just a mismatch. It was a huge crushing KO. I'm still shocked to this day that Showtime put that on. The media was so angry. That's why after that fight in the media section, Dan Raphael and Steven Espinoza almost came to blows. Chris de Blasio of Showtime PR had to come break it up. They were standing over me as it happened. It was wild. There was a lot of pushback, rightfully so, for that matchup. But it's all water under the bridge, I guess, at this point. But thank you for your question and your damn support of this show. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Brody, Danny Garcia hit Rod Salka so hard he became a hardcore Trump supporter. Yes, Rod Salka did resurface. What was that? ESPN Friday Night Fights, or maybe it was that Golden Boy series on ESPN where he wore the bricks, the trunks that were a brick wall at the time, where Trump in 2016 was talking about putting up the wall. And also, Brody, to double you up, yes, Paul. If Floyd was 50-1, that one was the unofficial sparring victory for Paul Spadafora. You could probably still find that on YouTube at a time when Floyd was in between fights, not in shape, and Paul was all set to fight for the title. But Paul was very good. He was also obviously very, very, very self-destructive. Tough ass Pittsburgh kid. It's good to see him kind of cleaned up now. Kind of, and he has a presence on social media. He's training young fighters. Yeah. All right. What do we got here? Harrison Karada. Ever been out to Hawaii, BC Rumble on the Rock? No, I've not been to Hawaii, but when I do, I'm going to hit Why Am I False to find out who was right? Was it Dana for bitching out of jumping out of there? Or was it that, what was that chick's name? She fought in BKFC too. What the heck? Brain fart. Somebody hit me up with that. She jumped. Okay. No, I as anybody growing up in the as anyone alive to this day, Hawaii is still a dream for me, especially growing up on the East Coast and being so far away. One day, it does get thrown around every once in a while in the family circle of like, can we afford that? Should we do that? It feels like a dream trip. Thank you, Mustache Dad. Rachel Ostovich was the one who was willing to jump. But yes, when I go, it's going to be awesome. I will be hitting Maui, checking out where Telv is. And yes, Osto Mom. There we go. Okay. One day. Brody's got Inoue, Akhmadaliev. Why is nobody talking about this fight? BC, even Top Rank and Eddie aren't promoting their own fight. Boxing's weird right now. There's a lot of weird shit going on right now. I'm not saying there's like some backdoor collusion conspiracy going on. I just think it's weird. Top Rank hasn't announced their deal. Where are they going? PBC's biggest fighters seem to be going elsewhere. Turkey was like hot for a while, and now it's kind of quiet. I don't know if it's all because all eyes are pointed on Canelo-Crawford, but where are the fights right now? We had 3 big fight nights on July 19th alone with Pacquiao pay-per-view, Usyk pay-per-view, and the Bam Rodriguez card, and then we've got nothing since then. It feels like. I mean, I know we had Dubois and Usyk. We've had a few things, but I love this matchup. We've wanted MJ versus Inoue forever. Let's get it. Let's get it. Okay. Brody thinks that Inoue is going to catch that L. I don't think so, but I want to see a very tough competitive fight because Akhmadaliev can play. He can fight, man. Respect on him beating that version of Prime Danny Roman for sure. All right. Lord of the Pies. BC, can you do the flute dance you did before? Okay. Where we got? Where's the thing? All right. All right. Really don't mind if I. Yeah, okay, that's enough. That's probably about enough of that. Too big, could be thick as a brick. I noticed Turkey being quiet, says Brody. Also, BC, he got bored of boxing. No, I just think that they're gearing up for something. All right, I don't know what. They're gearing up, it feels like. I mean, that's going to be a big week because Turkey just announced today there's going to be a prospect series called Underdogs that plays, I think, the Thursday night of fight week at the Fountain Blue. I know that UFC is doing a 2-day sort of like Radio Row that week at the Fountain Blue, having big time guests. So there's a lot going on here to launch Zuffa Boxing with Turkey, financing it, or Saudi Arabia financing it, Sella behind the scenes. I don't know. I mean, I know Turkey's got Haney Norman is going to be a big one for Ring 4 with Benavidez on that card, but it just feels like nothing is set in stone or announced for anybody right now, and that's troubling for the box. The box is hurting right now. The box is. It's wounded. All right? I'll still enter it, but it's wounded. Thank you. Signature Sounds, guys, is here. He's in this thing, or she. He's in this thing. Thank you for your support of this podcast. With Topps bringing back boxing cards, do you have any 90s basketball cards or Beckett's laying around the old meth lab? Yeah, so I kept every sport card I had until my kids were like 3. We had a rental house. And I remember the garage storage area was like overpacked. And, my wife's like, you gotta get rid of some of this crap. And I was finally like, you know what? You're right. And I basically threw away just an insane amount of common cards, right? Remember when NBA came out, NFL Pro Set came out and they were worth nothing, but I had a million of those. The NBA ones came out with the silver border around that were awesome. And I had so many of those. I threw away so many common cards. I kept my core collection, which is like the complete 85 Topps collection, the complete, I think 87 Topps. I believe I have like a 1990 Donruss complete set. And then I've just got a lot of random stuff. I have almost that complete NBA set, even though I threw away probably half of it. I do have the Menendez brothers card. Was that Mark Jackson maybe? I've got the one, whatever ones out of there, I guess you could say have value, but I was always more into like, not what cards have value that I could resell, but what cards are so cool. The Santa Claus NFL Pro Set card that was always impossible to get. The, remember when Topps Baseball, or was it Donruss put out that one where it was Don Mattingly and Darryl Strawberry together. And it was like a New York Sluggers card. That one means a lot to me. What was that company that came out in the 90s with the hologram, the baseball cards, and they had some like painting cards of ones. I don't know. Garbage talk of SD just said Garbage Pail Kids. I still have my entire, I might have thrown that away. I hope I didn't. 2 years ago, I found my Garbage Pail Kid cards in my closet, and I was like, maybe I should throw these away. My kids wanted nothing to do with them. I may have. But when my kids were small, I mentioned it before, I got them into wrestling cards and some NBA cards and stuff, and we would trade with each other, and that was a fun little bit. They never caught on too deep, but I definitely still have one key binder, which is like the cards that matter to me through the year. Like some Bo Jackson cards, some early Jordan cards, some, I have like 4 pages of Darryl Strawberry cards. I'm trying to think of more of those creative, weird ones. Oh, I got a lot of Deion Sanders cards. Yeah, whatever. All right. Thank you. But yeah, that 90s collection that came out. What company was that with the silver lining around them? That was awesome. That one was absolutely awesome. I forgot. But, I'm losing my mind. My family gets upset at me because I tell them all the time, I don't have a short-term memory anymore. And I know I'm talking about long-term in this instance, but like my long-term's pretty rock solid. But anything that I may have told you last week, I'll tell you it again today because I'm not going to remember that I told it to you 2 weeks in a row until about 3 years from now when my long-term memory kicks in. I try to think of it as in my job, I'm constantly downloading more information all the time. And things are going to fall out. You know what I mean? Things are going to fall out. Skybox. Was those the NBA ones I'm talking about? Signature Sounds? Upper Deck. That was the baseball one I was talking about that came out in the early 90s that were like the cool hip ones. They had a lot of specialized cool cards with holograms or what have you. I didn't mess with Metal Fleer. I think one time a guy my dad worked with when I first got into card collecting, and I still have these two in the card holder. It's a 83 tops Tony Gwynn rookie and an 83 tops Wade Boggs rookie. And those are always like the two good cards that I owned that had value, whatever that was, at some point it was worth $80, then $30. I don't even know what these things are worth now, but it was a good time. It was a good time. I always kind of knew it wasn't going to be sustainable though, that I wasn't going to stay into it. I mean, they're cards at the end of the day. They capture that imagination when you're young. It's fun to revisit it with my kids, but I'm not trying to get into that bag now. I collect weird things like NBA replica jerseys of the 1990s, There we go. What do you got, lazy? BC, where'd you fall during the West Coast, East Coast war? I need to know where your allegiance lied. I think I would say I was East Coast because I lived on the East Coast. Not that I really had a fight in this game, but the reality is that I preferred the West Coast sound. I bought the second CD I ever bought was The Chronic by Dr. Dre. And it was like within the first 2 weeks it came out and, was blown away like anybody else. I preferred Tupac to Biggie, even though I finally came around to Biggie after he died and listened to his classics and obviously was like, this is top shelf. I was into early Jay-Z, but then I turned on him. So I guess, I wasn't all about, my core of hip hop music was really like Public Enemy, Black Sheep, Tribe Called Quest, that was my sort of core, but I think in hindsight, I preferred the West Coast sound. It was raw, and I never went deep on Wu-Tang. So that's probably a big reason why I'm not back in the East Coast as aggressively. I never got into Prime Nas when he was in his prime. These were times that I was falling out. I mean, look, am I a sucker? Am I a white suburban kid who was really pulled into hip hop in the commercial MTV Raps late 80s, early 90s hip hop era? Like, yes, you know what I mean? I got into hip hop because of like Young MC and Tone Loc. You know what I mean? I got into it hard. Oh, I still have my UMTV Raps card collection. Now that is awesome. But I was like a third base fan. You know what I mean? Third base rules, but like, yeah, there you go. Shout out to the Ghetto Boys though. I had We Can't Be Stopped on cassette, and I used to get in trouble all the time for playing that song, The Other Level, where Bushwick Bill describes the menage that he had. Yeah, there you go. You know what I'm saying? There it is. Steven, BC, most memorable bass line. Oh, that's a great question. You got to give me time to research that because there's definitely ones that I'm compiling in my mind of my go-to. Yours is Muse Hysteria. I don't know that bass line off the top of my head, but let me see if I can. Well, you won't be able to hear this, but I will. Okay. Let me see highlights. Okay. Off of the Who's Quadrophenia, there is, first of all, John Entwistle on bass. Like once I really, I always loved the Who in the 90s, but it really wasn't until like the last 10 years that I woke up and was like, oh yeah, John Entwistle is maybe the best rock bassist of all time. Was playing lead guitar on bass, was just, yeah. There are times when Pete Townsend would almost be playing rhythm guitar to John Entwistle's lead bass. And the song, The Real Me, there's the third verse of The Real Me. Townsend lays off the guitar, and then you just hear Entwistle play that whole stretch lead bass. It is absolutely incredible. Check out The Real Me right there. Obviously I'm not off the top of my head, I'm not thinking of one of my favorite tropes is when you open classic songs with a unforgettable bass line. Of course. That is just like that, Okay, I got Muse Hysteria playing in my ear right now, and that is yeah, that's pretty I do know that song now that I think of it. That is pretty yeah, damn, that's a hard opening too. That is badass right there. Great question. Playing a few hits here. Yeah, Sabotage by the Beastie Boys. You're right, Harrison. That is just absolutely iconic. Phil Lesh on Friend of the Devil. Yeah, playing a real, and obviously, I mean, sometimes it takes being educated on it, but once you realize what Paul McCartney was really doing on bass, I mentioned that Rick Rubin Black and White sort of documentary special they did where they examined that. And man, I had listens of Sergeant Pepper 2 nights ago. I listened to the album back to back, which I never do. And for all my love hate of that album at times, I was back in the love seat with that. And dude, the heaviness on McCartney's bass in songs that you forget or don't even realize. It's just like, damn. But I'm failing you right now on sort of my go-to bass lines in rock history that jump out to me, that move me. Brody's Likes Come Together. Yeah, that is great. That is great. Let me see what we're bringing up here. Another one, Bites the Dust by Queen. Yes. Come Together, McCartney on the Beatles there. Geddy Lee with Rush with YYZ for sure. Money, Pink Floyd. Yeah. These Hysteria by Muse. These weren't my my go-tos on there, but I'm gonna think about that more. I'm gonna make a list. I'm inspired to figure that out for myself. Thank you. Great question. Danger Mouse knows. Yeah, another one, Bites the Dust. It has just epic. I mean, I love when a traditional rock song has just an unnecessarily heavy, booming bass sound to it. That is absolutely great. All right, let's go. Let's get into go home time. Here we go. Let's bring it. Let's absolutely bring it. Telvin, keep up. A favorite Israel Kamakiwoil song. Do I have one? I don't, Telvin, but thank you for your support. Should I? I try to write down when you guys are like, yo, what do you think about this thing you've never heard of? And then I sometimes make it back to figuring that out. All right. Steven, BC, fans of bidets, washlets? No. It seemed good. It seemed interesting as a kid, like when you'd watch movies, like and they'd like deal with it, Crocodile Dundee or whatever, and they'd be like in an expensive hotel, and it's like, oh my God. And then you try one for the first time, and then it's just sort of like in through the outdoor feeling. No. Can't do number 2 in public anymore, says Steven. Interesting. All right. Telvin. Okay, so this John. Oh, that's BJ Penn's walkout song. Did not know that. Thank you. Over the Rainbow. Yes, indeed. Is that guy? Is that the guy? All right. Great question here from Chris B. Thank you. And thank you for supporting this podcast. Hell yeah. Thoughts on Grand Funk Railroad. Dude, early Grand Funk Railroad freaking rules. So here's the deal. I had always known 2 things about Grand Funk Railroad. And you're right, Chinchilla. Romantic Bidet would make a great would really make a great one. Number 1, they're arguably my dad's favorite band of all time. So I heard about them always. I never realized until I got into them in the last 2 years that they were a power trio, and power trios are my favorite thing in classic rock history. The Jimi Hendrix Experience, Cream. Mountain. I just love how heavy a sound you can get out of a power trio that are committed to that. My dad's favorite bands from that era are probably Grand Funk, Zeppelin, the Jimi Hendrix Experience, and the Beatles. So I always knew 1 or 2 big hits. but they weren't a band that was getting overly played on classic rock radio, with the exception of We're an American Band, which is a pretty good classic rock tune that came out in 75, right at the tail end of their peak. And then, of course, the number 2 fact that I always knew about them, that my dad hated what they did with the cover of Locomotion, the old, early 60s hit from Little Eva, that was considered at the time an absolute monster sellout move. So what my dad would always tell me is this band early was raw, heavy, real, amazing, but they hit a point that they just absolutely sold their soul. And it was so lame, it's as if he maybe never forgave them for it. So it wasn't until I really got into vinyl, and then when I acquired my dad's collection, when he gave it to me rather than, leaving it to me in a will, that I went and listened to their first, their prime run, the live album plus their first 3 solo albums, with the second album, the Red Album, called Grand Funk, just being amazing, just being absolutely amazing. And I realized quickly they are so damn underrated in terms of what we talk about, a classic American American classic rock, history and lineage. We don't talk about them. And then going back and rewatching their Behind the Music that came out in the 90s on VH1, I didn't realize that they got screwed by their manager, and that there was a point at the peak of their career when they lost everything. They were one of those casualties who never made the money they were supposed to. So in some ways you start to understand that at the tail end of their prime, why they would want to sell out, why they would want a monster hit. I mean, obviously every band is going to have the pressure from the record company to do exactly that. And it's the ones that, fight against that and use their leverage. Maybe the Grateful Dead in some ways being the best example of that, how they were just like, record company, F off. Like, we're going to do exactly what we want right here. But you go back and you put on, and the thing that is great about them is they're polished, but they're just raw enough that it's just raw power. It's just straight ahead. It's fast. It's aggressive. They got 2 guys that can sing, Mark Farner on lead guitar, and I forgot the guy's name on Don. What's his name on drums? So you get 2 lead singers out of that. I think I got it right here. Hold on. Yeah, so Closer to Home, absolutely a great record. Absolutely. Arguably their best, but not their best. Their debut album, On Time, more of a 3.5 out of 5-star album, but still absolutely rocks. Grand Funk Live will kick your ass. It absolutely rocks. All right. They started to fall off a little bit with Phoenix, but whatever, it bangs. This is the one you need. Okay. I mean, look, E Pluribus Funk will take you home too, but that's really aftermarket. What I'm talking about is prime Grand Funk, one of my favorite album covers of all time. Okay, take the challenge. Put on the Red Album from Grand Funk. Okay, put it on right now. All right, thank you. I wouldn't say they're the best songwriters. I wouldn't say they are the best, guitar band. I wouldn't say they're the heaviest band. I wouldn't say a lot of things, but the sum of their parts are fast, aggressive, and they move you, and they rock, and they kick ass. Thank you. Great blues rock band. Absolutely. And then, when they started to feel themselves a little bit, when they started to do, Closer to Home, I'm Your Captain. Like, come on. That's the hits. Brody, BC, have you listened to Tom York and Johnny Greenwood's side band, The Smile? Yes. So Corey Marlin, my Radiohead shaman, along with some others in my life, has directed me. So has Aaron Bronstetter, to The Smile. I have heard, I think, 2 of their 3 records and played those 2 fairly regularly. Not enough to memorize the songs or the difference between them, but right away, as Brody says, they got some good tunes. It's pretty upbeat music. It is, it's Radiohead adjacent. It's got 2 of the key parts of Radiohead, maybe arguably the 2 biggest, but it also has the drummer from Sons of Kemet, which is a incredible jazz fusion world music band that I also love, that Bronstetter got me into. I would love to see The Smile live. I would love to buy their vinyl and get a little bit deeper into them. If you like Radiohead, by extension, you're going to love The Smile. Amazing stuff right there. All right, Zoe, you're killing me with this door. All right, we're going to go in rapid mode. Just first, here's Adrian Broner.
I beat Polly, I with his belt and his girl.
All right. Appreciate everybody today. Let's bring it on home. Okay. Bring it on home. Intangible. That many Grand Funk Railroad albums is embarrassing. Well, it's one of my dad's favorite bands. So, you know, I inherited them, and it's good stuff right there. All right. It's good stuff. All right. Poetic Sin. Interesting name right there. Appreciate you though for joining and supporting. Forget Senior Thomas. What's the story of Senior Campbell, motorcycle riding, Guns N' Roses playing, Karate Man, all qualities men in that era will slay? Yes, I have. My dad's still with us, of course, and I had a very cool dad growing up who, while being an authoritarian without question and having certain aggressive non-negotiables, in hindsight, maybe I didn't realize how cool he was. You know what I mean? I didn't care if I watched R-rated movies at age 4, had an even though he turned so aggressively to pop that it was almost shameful in the 80s and 90s. His background of classic rock knowledge and the collection he had, and it wasn't just, you know, a badass collection of 300 records. The basement of our basement, the entire walls were lined with cassette tape holders of excess of thousands. Then he went and moved on to CDs, you know, always had stereos with, you know, 5-foot high speakers, always had to have music playing as a background to eating dinner or entertaining people or whatever. We didn't go to a lot of concerts together in hindsight, which is interesting, but had a classic rock foundation, loves blues rock more than anybody, flirted with country pop, likes a lot of crazy things. We don't really cross paths on music today because he's all over the place listening to like random people covering from, you know, major bands in weird ways. But somebody that wasn't into sports, but we could watch a Super Bowl together. We could watch Tyson fights together. And, you know, was a tough guy, was a motorcycle riding tough guy, a genius mechanic, could fix anything and everything. Unfortunately, it didn't get handed down to me, but, you know, had a huge tattoo his whole life of motorcycle inspired. Yeah, was a fireman with, you know, blue collar to death, swore like crazy, always had a huge bushy mustache. When he retired, had just this ridiculous beard and grew his hair so crazy that people in public used to say, "Are you Jerry Garcia?" But you know, just it's my dad. Going to see him over Christmas. Excited for sure. But definitely influenced me in a lot of ways. For as gnarly man's man and eccentric as he could be, also though, without question, without compromise, taught me the values of respect, honesty, treating treating women, children, and animals well. Doesn't mean I didn't grow out of my environment and become a dirtbag in my 20s. I mean, I certainly was, but yeah, that's my pops. Shout out to him. Shout out to Chris Campbell. There we go. All right, we're almost done here. We're nailing it. Steven, BC wife gives you a hall pass. Who are you picking? Mine is, dude, I love that you say that because that's always been in like a top 5 hall pass for me. It's like Tiffany Amber Thiessen on her first season of Now 2-0. It's like Cameron Diaz from The Mask. I mean, something about Mary was still prime, but obviously there's something different going on the Cameron Diaz from The Mask. Can we say Jennifer Love Hewitt from Can't Hardly Wait / I Know What You Did Last Summer? I think we could say that. We could probably say a few other things, but yeah, those are the classics. Those are the all-timers. Lisa Turtle from Saved by the Bell, prime on, or maybe not. But I mean, yeah, well, definitely yes. But those are the absolute classics. Who am I forgetting from the Pantheon, right? Everybody's got their own. I mean, Jenny Garth from Now 2-0 in the early prime. Is that what we're talking about? All right. I mean, Key Papa knows. Are we talking about prime You Want a Champion right there, right? But no, but the thing is though, ultimately, Old Man Dave's right. We ain't here to covet. Okay, we ain't here to covet. All right. That's the deal. It's all fun and games. It's all a joke. It's all just playing on the whatever. But yeah. Kelly Kapowski when she joined now 2-0. Thank you for playing. There it is. There it is. Franco's in the house. Got hands, this guy. We know about this guy. What's up, Beast? What's up for you supporting this podcast? That's what I'm talking about, Franco. What or who are you most excited to see, listen to as part of a team working the Canelo-Crawford fight? The desk, ringside, etc. Not to be overly critical, I don't love the foursome that they picked for the desk. I don't know how that traffic's going to work, but we'll see. Shout out to all those guys getting the opportunity. I'm sure if I got the opportunity, there'd be just as many people going, oh, really? You got that guy? I do think, though, the fight trio calling the actual fight, John Anik, Max Kellerman, Andre Ward, is very brilliant. I expect them to be awesome. I do not expect it to be an issue at all. John knows boxing. He came from boxing. He can rise to the moment like no one else can. He can carry a broadcast like no one else can. And not only do Max and Ward love each other, they've got the experience of working together, both on HBO, also on Top Rank cards, even though Max was more of a, at times, like studio analyst, or not studio, desk analyst. But that's a power trio. It's going to be fantastic. Would I have loved to work on that card? I mean, who wouldn't, right? I mean, who absolutely wouldn't? They went the Jim Gray route. He's a Hall of Famer. He's classic right there. Brought in Heidi Androl, who has the UFC experience and has done boxing before. Has been around, a true professional, by the way. Heidi Androl, just a very, very nice person in so many ways. So all in all, you got Buffer, you got Joe Martinez, who is great. All in all, it's a pretty great team. So I'm excited to see that dynamic between Anik and Kellerman and Ward. And obviously, not only have we not had Ward calling a lot of fights lately, he did come to Netflix for the recent card, but we haven't had Max Kellerman calling a fight since the death of HBO, right? Like, he was able to work some elements of boxing on ESPN, but like, Max Kellerman calling a fight rules. It's always ruled. You know what I mean? He's had different iterations of himself. The Max Kellerman from the early 2000s on Friday Night Fights is a lot different from, 2014 HBO Max Kellerman, but yeah, I'm going to be interested to see. Only I think I might be there, so we'll see how that plays out. But if I'm there, I'm just as interested to see what that environment looks like and feels like inside Allegiant Stadium. So there we go. There we go. Cosmo Kramer, thank you for playing. What do you make of the current state of ESPN? I mean, look, it's sort of company policy that when I was at ESPN, it was company policy. It's company policy at CBS that you're not going to disparage your competitors. You know what I mean? So I'm certainly not trying to do that right now. I'm also trying to be honest. From somebody who was there at ESPN for 12 years, I haven't loved the overall editorial direction, the embrace debate on steroids, right? Now you mix in, they kind of are not in boxing anymore, not going to be in MMA at the highest level for now, unless they re-up PFL, which is not the highest level, but still pretty high. I'm intrigued to see what they're doing, what it's going to look like, what this future turn means, this partnership with Fox on this sports app. I don't know. I mean, I don't get a lot of entertainment hours anymore from ESPN like I used to, from, a kid when it was my life through, I mean, it was probably still my life. MTV and ESPN were the, were 99% of what I watched on TV from like 1984 to 2008, maybe. Right. So, working there was interesting. There was a lot of good, there was a lot of bad, but while I worked there, I saw a huge culture shift within the company, not just in the way things were handled behind the scenes, but how it played out on camera. For sure, we all have our opinions. SportsCenter used to be must see. Is it not must see now because of changes they made or changes in how we digest things? All fair arguments, but too much screaming and yelling and debate. Yes. Too much focusing on the 3 or 4 hot button ad nauseum topics of the moment. Yes, for sure. But also there's things I really like about ESPN, and I do have great memories, and so many people that I loved working with there are still there. And it's always great when I look back at the people, the core people that I started with, the first couple of years in the same department, and to see where they have all gone. Some are still there in power, huge positions, and some have moved on and done great things. I mean, I started off in the same department that produced ultimately John Adik, Molly Karam, Paul Severino, myself, so many people that have gone on to Jen Brown, so many people came in and out, and Phil Murphy, who's now a SportsCenter host. So good times, great oldies. Thank you. Lazy Bed, build your dream 3-piece band, vocals, guitar, and drums. I always say that, and I mentioned that story of my buddy Rick Phillips having seen Blind Faith with Jack Bruce on bass. I always say that if Cream could have just added Steve Winwood. Now, the difference between Cream and Blind Faith is you dropped Jack Bruce, who is maybe my third favorite bassist of all time, behind Jaco Pastorius and John Entwistle. You want to talk about power bass? Jack Bruce on power freaking bass. If they, so Blind Faith instead had Rick Gretsch on bass. They had Ginger Baker in both bands. They had Eric Clapton in both bands. Ginger Baker was not supposed to be a part of Blind Faith, but he sort of showed up at Eric Clapton's door and announced and knocked and just clung to it. And Steve Winwood was like, we got a chance to get Ginger Baker. Let's do it. Whereas Clapton was like, I'm trying to get away from the drama of Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker fighting all the time and all the pressure that they put on Cream to be a super rock band. That's ultimately what led to the demise of Blind Faith. Clapton never bought in on it. He was sick of from day one Blind Faith being presented to the world as the next great super group. They debuted at Hyde Park in London live, right? But I still say, like, outside of literally answering your question by picking an all-star team and going, what am I going to do here? Jimi Hendrix on guitar, what's next? The rock and roll version of Rod Stewart from the Jeff Beck Group on lead vocals. And who do I want on drums? Ginger Baker. Do I want Keith Moon? I mean, I could do that and we could have fun with that. But I think not only do I love the Blind Faith album outside of the very awkward album cover, and not only do I think that was just the beginning of what they could have been, if that could have been a 4-piece with the Cream trio, Jack Bruce on bass, and then you just add Steve Winwood on piano. Steve Winwood could play guitar on Traffic, and people forget about that, by the way. But him as the lead songwriter on piano, that group would have been everything I ever wanted in rock and roll. Like, whereas Crosby, Stills, and Nash is probably my dad's 5th or 6th favorite band of all time. And he aggressively tried to get me into them when I got into this type of music. Like, to people my dad's age, Crosby, Stills, and Nash was that sort of amazing supergroup. Nash and Young, add Neil Young to there, even though they were really only together for that Deja Vu album there in terms of the prime, and then the live album as well. But give me Cream with Steve Winwood. You can call him Cream, you can call him Blind Faith. That band to me would have been everything I ever wanted for a decade, and I wish we could have got that. Because look at what Clapton did on Derek and the Dominoes with Duane Allman. And then realized that Clapton was, in my opinion, never as good again as he was on Derek and the Dominoes, Blind Faith, or Cream, or maybe even, the cups of coffee he had with the Yardbirds and the Blues Breakers. I don't love solo Clapton. I like his debut album. I kind of like, Ocean Boulevard, whatever that was called. But not my cup of tea after that. All right, we're taking this home. Hey, Hachi is back. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your support in this. You ever listen to anything by Jason Molina? My Morning Jacket was very inspired by him. No, but thank you for your support, and I will give him. So I do my best listening on the road when I'm traveling to MK there and back on the train on my Tidal app. When I got a trip, to cover a fight or something, I'm listening like crazy. In the car too, but you end up, when you work from home and live at home, you end up at home all the time. And I'm listening to vinyl in a lot of cases, but I'm going to give this a ride here because MMJ is my wheelhouse. That's my center point. All right, 2 more and we out of here. Thank you for playing. Thank you, Joe of Run Dem Cheeks fame. Ever get into the Guitar Hero Rock Band games? No, and I wish I did. Those really came to prominence like right when I was courting my wife, got married, about to have kids, and I just didn't own stuff like that and really wasn't my focus. It's crazy. Now I was, 27 when I got married, 28 when I got married, 29 when we had the twins. And and I was ready. Believe me, I was ready. My life was cleaned up, professional, and I was ready to be that person. It's just crazy how serious you get My dad told me that. He was like, well, my dad got married at 18, like right after high school, and then went right into the working world and having kids. And he's like, I just became a full-fledged adult like that. He didn't have that 18 to 25 like I did, where I'm just this rolling stone and this reckless piece of crap. It's crazy how like right when it was time to go, I became dad, or I became professional husband, and I didn't, now I'm making weird paintings, listening to records, and playing Fortnite, right? Like it's cyclical, it comes around. But no, during that run, now I definitely played Guitar Hero Rock Band at people's houses and loved it, but that was a handful of times. So that was something in hindsight that I missed. I missed that run, and it would have been good, would have been up my alley. All right, let's close with this. And you guys have been fantastic. Thank you. And MMA Fanatic, thank you for playing today. What made Jose Luis Castillo's game plan so effective against Floyd, and why couldn't anyone else follow that blueprint? Great question. Because in the totality of the two fights, maybe he had the most success against Floyd. Maybe, right? Seriously. Now, we can't forget, though, that the first fight, Floyd legitimately had an injured shoulder, and it did play a part. Now, look, Floyd beat him cleanly in the second fight. The scores were actually closer, ironically, and it's not like, Castillo wasn't still competitive in the second fight and having some of the same success. But as much as I want to say, if there is a real L on Floyd's record, it is their first fight. It is. Maidana fought him close in the first fight, but that's a clean win for Floyd. I'm not arguing anybody else having a real shot at should have gotten a decision against Floyd. I'm just not. I've watched all the fights. The first Castillo fight is that one. But that asterisk of the injured shoulder, it does matter. But to answer your question, prime Castillo was tough as nails. Now, did he pour out so much of what made him great in the Corrales fight, the first one? Yes, they both did. They were never, ever, 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 ever the same. And how could you? Because that you leave your life in the ring in one like that. But in theory, what allowed him to be that, to be so good? He was a disciple of the Julio Cesar Chavez influence style, of the I'm a crafty boxer, but I like to fight on the inside. I'm going to dig to your body. He had sneaky footwork. He had a very good, hearing Joe Goosen talk about when the game plan for that fight against for when he was in Corrales' corner against Castillo in the first fight. It was the fact that Castillo had these crafty tricks. He had the fake, the pump the right hand to the body and then come right over the top with the left hook. He had the float the jab and then come back with the left hook. That left hook was so money. The left hook to the body was great. But it was the fact that he was tough as nails. He could stand in the pocket. He liked to dictate the terms to the fight, but he also had the chin that if you're going to go mano a mano with him, he can stand in there and take it. Until that fight was over against Corrales, he was the one who looked like, as that second half winded down, that he figured Corrales out and found the better, and had the upper hand. Now, Joe Goosen will tell you it was that Corrales had blocked that left hook the whole fight, and that he entered round 10 with a pep in his step. He was a little lazy, and it just took that one perfect left hook that fully put the control in Castillo's hands until he lost it, right? But it was his ability to get inside on Floyd, to cut off the ring effectively, hurt him to the body, and somehow landed a significant amount of more punches than Floyd in that fight. Did the injured shoulder matter? Yes, of course. But this is a tough guy who had better footwork than you thought he had, who was craftier than you thought he should be or was. Just a killer in his prime. The problem is that prime did go away from the two Castillo fights, from the two Corrales fights, and then he lingered for a while and was never able to reactivate it. Had a little run after that, but was never able to do that, and then lingered way too long. One of my favorite fighters to watch of all time. Just a guy you just have to respect, a blood and guts, hammer and nails guy who sneakily had skills and had game. That's it. Thank you very much for playing, guys. This was fun today. I appreciate it. I appreciate all of you. I lost my voice almost in the process. Sorry if I told the same stories over again. I speak in circles. I ramble. My name is Brian Campbell. Thank you. Like and subscribe. Be back here next time. And let's do this, man. All right. Let's keep doing this. Let's keep having fun. Take care of yourselves. Please. I mean that. Put that first. It's not selfish. Put this first. All right. Get it looked at if you have to. It's not a big deal. All right. Salute. We love you. Take care of yourselves. Listen to the greatest outro of all time. Anthony on guitar, Jacob on drums. I'm talking about Head Change, the Nebraska jam band. We love them. Thank you. We out of here.